Nithya Shanti ji, thank you once again for being here. I'm sure everybody is going to be glued onto their screens like I have in the past 5, 6 days. I've been binge watching all your videos and learning so much from your teachings. And I've seen it all from cancel to Mayurma to all your lovely teachings. So I'm sure this session also is going to be great. So please do share your insights on emotional resilience and also not only for these challenging times, but also on a day-to-day basis. What is it that we can implement in our day-to-day life so that we're more prepared when life throws at us these little challenges? Over to you, Nithya Shanti.
Well, thank you, Pooja. That's a really warm welcome. Someone's asking what's the question they have to answer to get that prize. Why don't you repeat the question one more time?
Right. The question is, what do you do on a day-to-day basis yourself to make yourself stronger from within, to build that emotional resilience? So take your time to answer. I'm sure you'll start thinking a little more about that when you hear Nithya Shantiji's words. So take your time, and I will pick one answer and one lucky winner at the end.
Great, lovely. In fact, if you read the answers, you'll probably get everything I want to share today. You'll have a nice summary from everybody. So good to be here. Thanks, Pooja. Thanks, Ira, for having me. And this is a really lovely community. And Pooja, just call me Nithya. You know, it's there's no G required. Otherwise, then I'll also call you Pooja G. Then that'll be tit for tat. So today's session is an opportunity for us to reflect. I'm going to be sharing a few things that I found useful. There are two wonderful disclaimers in spirituality, which I always remind myself of. The first is, just because it works for you doesn't mean it'll work for anybody else. And the second one is, just because you think it works for you doesn't mean it really works for you. In other words, we've got to be honest, because it's very easy to deceive ourselves, right? Years back, when I learned Vipassana meditation, our teacher, some of you may have done Vipassana, it's a 10-day meditation course. And our teacher gave us a very interesting example. He says someone's sick and they go to the doctor and the doctor prescribes a medication. And they're really impressed with how professional the doctor is, how confident the doctor is. And they come back home and they put a picture of the doctor and they start worshiping the doctor. What an amazing doctor you are. What an amazing doctor you are. What a wonderful prescription you've given me. And they repeat medicine in the morning, medicine in the afternoon, medicine in the evening. And they never have the medicine. First kind of person. Second kind of person goes to the same doctor and the doctor prescribes medications. Wait a minute, doctor, why are you prescribing this particular medication? And the doctor says, listen, you have this condition. This is the cause of the condition. And this medicine will deal with the cause. You take out the cause, you take out the condition. Wow, that's a fantastic explanation. So he comes back home and he's so proud of his doctor. Everybody he meets, he says, my doctor is the best. He gave me the best possible explanation. And he argues with everybody and he debates everybody. He says, my doctor is the best, but still doesn't have the medication. So the third person goes to the doctor and he has faith in the doctor and he understands why the medication works. But then he also goes on to have the medication. So as you can imagine, it's only the third person who actually recovers from the illness. So what my teacher told me is that as we go through life, we will come across a lot of learning. In fact, this is the age of information overload. I always hesitate to share things sometimes. And how much more information do you guys need? Because Jiddu Krishnamurti once said that a truth known and not lived becomes a poison. And if you're honest with yourself, you're sometimes hounded by the books you haven't read, the books you bought and not read, the online courses you signed up for and not completed. Maybe even you're part of Ira Yoga and you're not joining as often as you should. And that guilt gets to you, right? So a truth known and not lived become the poison. So to teach is a mistake. And to not teach is also a mistake. Now what do? Because to teach, why is it a mistake to teach? Because first of all, you're making a big assumption that you know what the person needs to hear. And secondly, there is, no matter what you teach, it'll never be 100% exactly holistic. It'll always be emphasizing one thing or the other. That's just the nature of things. The moment I open my mouth, it can't be the complete truth. It has to be a partial truth. Lao Tzu, when he wrote the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu was forced to write the Tao Te Ching. He did not want to write it. Lao Tzu just means old man. Nobody even knew his name. Nobody knew his name. Nobody knew his age. He's just the old guy who's the wise guy. And he was going to the Himalayas to die because he knew his time's up. And the emperor found out Lao Tzu was leaving without leaving a record. So he made sure every single guard on the border was aware of this. And when Lao Tzu came, they stopped him. Stop. You can't go. You're under house arrest. You have to write something. Write something. I've never given any written teaching my whole life. To write something. So they didn't let him go to the Himalayas to die. And they forced him to write. So he wrote 81 verses. It's one of my favorite books, the Tao Te Ching. It's written as Tao Te Ching, but it's pronounced as Tao Te Ching. And the first line of the Tao Te Ching, the very first verse is, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Right. And so in a way, he negates his entire book by saying that right in the beginning. So we're going to go ahead, even though it's a mistake to teach and it's a mistake to not teach, we will go ahead and we will make the mistake of teaching. And we will invite you to just test, because I want you to have the questioning mind and check, does it resonate? What I'm saying, does it resonate? Does it ring true? And even if what I'm saying doesn't ring true, it will still help you identify what is true. Yesterday I had a session and somebody messaged me later on saying, Nithya, I didn't like one of the answers you gave. And they gave me a very long reason why they didn't like my answer. I said, so wonderful. My so-called wrong answer made this person get so clear about their own answer. So sometimes not hearing what you like is also really good. It helps you clarify what is important. Abraham Hicks calls it contrast. In life, you will get all kinds of data. And much of that data gives you contrast. This is what I don't like these kind of relationships. I don't like these kind of jobs. I don't like these kind of places. I don't like these kind of people. Okay, then what is it you do want? And focus on what you really want. And that starts giving you clarity. All right, so emotional resilience. First of all, let's talk about emotions itself. The word emotion, I think this is there in popular culture. You've probably heard of it, but it's very true. Emotion, energy in motion. When your energy is flowing, like after a nice yoga session or pranayam session or walk in nature, or you've done a nice jog or a run. I have a friend, he's a famous doctor in Bombay, and he said, Nithya, I can't meditate. But when I go for a run and I have a shower, and when I sit, then I'm zero. Excellent. So he's found a way. He goes for a nice run, he has a shower, and then he just sits. And automatically, he's in a state of shunya, zero. It's spelled Tao Te. Let me spell it out for you. Tao Te Ching. T-A-O. Tao Te Ching. And my favorite translation is by Stephen Michel. So, emotion, energy in motion. When your energy is stuck, then you experience unpleasant emotion. I wouldn't use the word negative emotion, because for me, all emotion is intelligent. But I will say unpleasant emotion, right? So energy is stuck, like energy is constipated. So in our language, we have words like, he broke my heart, or she broke my heart, or I'm heartbroken. But think about it. Does your heart really break? Your heart doesn't break. Your heart just contracts. Your heart squeezes and unsqueezes. But that's what it's meant to do anyway, isn't it? It's meant to squeeze and unsqueeze. And maybe you're squeezing a little more than usual right now. You with our heart broken. Even our language can create trouble sometimes. When we hear the word heart, we hear the phrase, I'm heartbroken. We imagine literally the heart. We have those emojis of the heart breaking. But the heart doesn't break. It's very difficult for the heart to physically break. It's a muscle. Yeah, muscles can break, but it takes a lot for a muscle to break. And your heart is one of the most resilient organs in the whole body. Did you know, by the way, that the best blood in the body, where is it sent? Is it sent to the brain? Is it sent to the lungs? Is it sent to the liver? The best brain, you want to guess in the chat? Where do the best, highest quality blood, where someone's saying brain, someone's saying stomach? Heart. Yeah, you got it. Dipesh got it. So the best blood in the body is actually sent to the heart itself. And how selfish of the heart to send the very best blood to itself. I send it to the brain. We'll do a little better in our exams. We'll pass the IAS. We'll get into a nice IIM, good college or something. But the thing is, the heart sends its best blood to itself. And there's a really important lesson there. We got to take care of ourselves. Right. So today's session is also about taking care of yourself. The only guaranteed long-term relationship. Can you guess? Which is the only guaranteed long-term relationship of your life? An easy one, right? With oneself. There was a king and a queen. This is actually a true story from the Buddha's time, and they were meditating. They were practicing the Buddha's teaching. They were meditating one day, and at the end of the practice, the queen said, a thought occurred to me. And the king said, that's interesting, a thought occurred to me as well. He said, you go first. What thought occurred to you? So the queen said, the thought that occurred is, in the whole world, I am dearest to myself. Now, in those days, for a queen to say that was very courageous. To tell the king that I am dearest to myself. The king can say, off with your head. You're dearer to yourself than I am. But she was brave enough to tell her husband that, I realized that I am dearest to myself. And he said, how fascinating. It's the same thought that I had. That in the whole world, I may have parents and friends and this and that, but I am dearest to myself. So they go to the Buddha and they bow down and say, we were meditating, we both had the same thought. What do you have to say about this? And the Buddha said, sadhu, sadhu, great realization. We may profess love to this and that and the rest, but actually each one loves themselves the most. That is the truth of it. Now, if you love yourself the most, then can you also take care of yourself? Then why do you neglect yourself? Why do you put yourself last in some sense? Right? So self-care, taking care of yourself. And a big part of self-care is understanding your emotional life. Because much of what we are doing, you may say, I'm doing it for this and that and all the rest. But if you're really honest with yourself, you're doing it to feel a certain way, isn't it? Even this session, we want to feel a certain way. Why do we go for yoga? Why do we go and hang out with certain friends? Why do we want to go to Goa or any nice hill station? We want to feel a certain way. At the end of it all, we want to feel a certain way. Now, there are two ways to get there. One is I do things for happiness. I do things for joy. I do things for bliss. That's one way. But the thing is, you never know. I make a big plan to go to Goa and this and that, but then it turns out something is not right. The hotel is not up to the mark, or my cell phone isn't working, or the internet is not working, or something or the other is always there that kind of messes it up, right? So it's never quite reliable. You make all these elaborate plans. You heard that saying that if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. God will have a good laugh. So you can do things for happiness, for joy, for bliss. Or the more reliable way, you can do things from happiness, from joy, and from bliss. So right there, you have a very big clue. As long as you're doing things for something, you will always be on edge. You will never be sure. So now physical pain, we all understand physical pain. I touch something hot, my hand pulls back. I touch something sharp, oops, it's bleeding. And I stop doing what I was doing. I sit in a funny position. I'm trying a yoga asana and my back hurts. Oh, that's not right. I can't go that far. Better stop. All right. So your physical pain is telling you, don't do that. It's hurting you. Stop. Don't do that. Don't sit like that. Don't walk like that. Don't turn like that. Don't twist like that. Don't touch that. It's hurting. Okay. Stop. So we understand physical pain, but very few of us understand emotional pain. Emotional pain, we start saying, that person said that person did that disappointment happened, that was not up to my expectation. And we start imagining all these things in our life are not lining up. And that's why I'm in emotional pain. But that is not the reality if you look at it very carefully. Emotional pain is telling us, don't believe that thought. It's not serving you. Don't believe that thought. It's a lie. And I learned this so strongly from one of my teachers, Byron Katie. Byron Katie was depressed for 15 years, maybe longer. She had agoraphobia. She couldn't leave her house. She couldn't even leave her room, actually. And it got worse and worse. And long story short, she checked herself into a de-addiction center. She hated herself so much that she took the worst room, which is the attic. And even there, she wouldn't let herself sleep on the bed. She loathed herself. I mean, if you ever think you have a bad relationship with yourself, it's nothing compared to Byron Katie. She was sleeping on the floor. She hated herself so much. She didn't deserve to sleep on a bed. She wakes up one morning and there's a cockroach on her foot. For most of us, that's a scary experience, a cockroach on my foot, and you immediately jump, you scream. But she had already been through hell. What is that nice saying? That religious people are religious so that they don't go to hell, right? And people are spiritual after they've been to hell. So in her case, she'd already been to hell. So when the cockroach was on her foot, there was a snap, there was an awakening, which realized, it's not the cockroach. It's the thought about the cockroach. You see, no cockroach has ever troubled you. No lizard has ever troubled you. No mouse has ever troubled you. No nothing has ever troubled you. It's your thoughts about it that have troubled you. So stress does not come from the circumstances of our life. Stress comes from the thoughts about the circumstances of our life. This is a really important recognition. And no matter what it is, you could be in an earthquake. Let's say right now there's an earthquake. Things are shaking and it's getting really bad. You're going to make a dash for it, or you're going to get under the table, whatever you've heard in the television, get under a strong table or get under a door frame or get out of the house, basically, run for it, right? And you just got into action. You put a pillow on your head and you got into action. And you got out and all your neighbors are standing down below. The buildings are shaking, the ground is shaking, and you're fine. And only later on the thoughts start coming in. Oh, I almost died. Oh, I almost lost everything. Oh, my building almost collapsed. You see, when the thing happened, it was not a problem. You just did what you needed to do. When the tiger chased you, or let's say maybe more likely a dog chased you someday. So you made a dash for it, or you did whatever you had to do, right? So in that moment, it's not a problem. Later on, when the thoughts come in, oh, look, I almost got bitten. Oh, look, that almost happened. That's when you get traumatized. It's fascinating to know this. So trauma comes from believing or thinking. It's how you see things. It's not what's happening. It's the way you look at things. So emotional pain is telling us, don't believe that thought. So someone who believes all their thoughts is called insane. They're put into a mental asylum. They're called hypochondriac, schizophrenic, split personality, you name it, depressed. They're believing all their thoughts. The more thoughts you believe, the more insane you get. Why do you get more insane? Because mind, M-I-N-D, I'll come to how do you process, it's a good question, how do you process traumatic, I'll be talking about that. Right? We'll talk about PTSD as well. So mind stands for M-I-N-D, mostly inaccurate neurodrama. Mostly inaccurate neurodrama. So when you believe all your thoughts, you're insane. When you believe some of your thoughts, you attend a session like this. When you believe very few thoughts, you're wise. And when you don't believe a single thought, you're free. So we will have thoughts, but we must not believe our thoughts. And this is not me, this is Aristotle, who says education, the mark of an educated mind is to have a thought and not believe it. So just because you've been to Harvard or JNU or whichever college you've been to doesn't mean you're educated yet. Because some of the most educated people believe their thoughts. And that's the situation in our country and in our world right now. People are believing their thoughts. And even the most educated people keep fighting, keep bickering, right? Because I believe my thoughts, you believe your thoughts. There's the lovely Tibetan saying that when two yogis meet and they disagree, one of them is not a yogi. And when two scholars meet and they agree, one of them is not a scholar. Because a yogi lives from the heart. Heart is about oneness. We've gone beyond thought. And the scholar lives in the head. And head is all about distinction and discrimination and this and that and better and worse. Right? Mind stands for mostly inaccurate neurodrama. All right, so with that foundation, let's now talk about how do we balance our minds. And I'm going to give you a few ideas here. Today's talk is short, but I'm going to give you a few clues to move forward. The first thing I want to tell you is that your body knows how to discharge. Discharge what? Discharge emotional tension. Your body knows how to do it. But you got to let it. So in the wild, when a gazelle is chased by a tiger, and of course, it's some of the time it's caught, not its day, it's dead, or it's injured. And some days it gets away. Maybe 50% of the time it gets away. Let's say it gets away 50% of the time. The gazelle is chased, it runs for its life, the tiger runs, and the gazelle gets away. So now people, environmentalists and the ecologists and naturalists who observe the gazelle, they notice now that the gazelle is safe, it knows it's out of danger. It just knows it's out of danger when the tiger gets tired. The cheetah or the tiger, once it's tired, it can't do anything. Even if it's right next to you, it can't do anything because it's just out of breath, right? So it knows it's safe. So when it's safe, they noticed the gazelle starts shivering. It starts shivering. What's happening? It's shivering. It's letting go of all this emotional tension, all the adrenaline or whatever is coursing through that animal's body. It's letting it all go. It's shivering. It's letting it go. It's discharging. The body knows how to discharge. And they noticed later on, the next day, the gazelle does not have post-traumatic stress disorder. It's chilling. It's having its grass, it's moving around. If you and I were ever chased by a tiger, I guarantee the title of our biography will be Made It Alive or The Tiger Chased Me. It'll be the story of our life. I would not go to any cocktail party without talking about the tiger that chased me. You see that? It becomes a big part of our story. So my teacher said a beautiful thing. He said, one day you come home and there's a big pile of cow dung in front of your door. Cow dung? Where did this cow dung come from? I didn't order cow dung. You ask your neighbor where did it come from, neighbor doesn't know. You ask a security guard, nobody knows. All you know is there's a big pile of cow dung in front of your house. Now what do? You have two options. One is you pick up some shit, you put it in your pockets, and wherever you go, you take out some and show it to your friends and say, look what happened, look what happened, look what happened, smell this. And after a little period of sympathy, your friends will stop returning your calls and they'll stop inviting you, because wherever you go, you talk about the shit that happened. Wherever you go, you talk about the shit that happened. You can't get over it. And the other person realizes just talking about it endlessly doesn't do anything. So let's process this. And so, cow dung may smell really bad, but it's good for something. Can you put in the comments, what is cow dung good for? You all know this. What's it good for? Yeah, that's right. Cow dung is good for manure. It's good for biogas. It's good manure. Yeah, a lot of answers. Good for plants. So you take the cow dung, you take a wheelbarrow, you start taking the cow dung, and you start putting it in your backyard. Start putting it in your backyard. It takes a while, right? And some people say a lot of cow dung. One day is not enough. 1 month may not be enough. 1 year may not be enough. But a day definitely comes and all the cow dung is out of your front door and it's now in the backyard. And something amazing happens. You've got better flowers. All the bees and birds are attracted to your backyard. You've got a beautiful backyard. And people look at your backyard and say, how come your backyard's so nice? We've also got backyard. Ours is not so nice. And you smile because, everyone's got shit in their lives. But what are you doing with the shit in your life? Are you going to complain about it? Or are you going to convert it into manure? So think about the people you admire. Have they had no shit in their lives? Or have they had even an extraordinary amount of shit in their lives? And have they not converted it into manure? Or do they go around complaining about it? Just before I became a monk, somebody gifted me a book about a Tibetan nun. When she was a young nun, her monastery was attacked by the Chinese and she was imprisoned. She spent, 30, 40 years in a prisoner camp. And then somehow, I forget if she was released or she escaped. And she comes to India and she goes to the Dharamsala and she gets an audience with the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is so moved. This woman has spent 30, 40 years. She spent 30, 40 years in a prison. And of course, she's been beaten and tortured and who knows what else. And he asked her, sister, tell me, what was the hardest part of your experience? She said, yes, there were a few challenges. She says, there were a few times I almost lost compassion. That was the danger. She didn't talk about getting beaten. She didn't talk about all of that. She said, there were a few times I almost lost compassion for my captors. Wow. This is a whole different way of thinking. You see, she's not a victim. So she's a great example of someone who's taken the cow dung and converted it into the most beautiful, glorious flowers. And I read that book and I was so moved. This is the potential we have. And this is not just for saintly people like nuns. If you read about the genocide in Rwanda, there was an article by the New York Times where they sent reporters to cover the reconciliation movement, the prime minister, president, whatever they have. He said that our country is too poor to afford having thousands of people in prison after the genocide. We just can't afford it. So everyone in the prison who's willing to ask for forgiveness will be released. And these are people who raped and pillaged and murdered. And a big process begins in the country to ask for forgiveness and also accept forgiveness. And there was a whole, if you look up, you just type genocide, Rwanda, and New York Times, you probably get, it's portraits of forgiveness, portraits and reconciliation. It is so moving that these people who have killed family members are standing next to the person whose family they've killed. And sometimes you can sense the tension, sometimes not. Sometimes even they're actually holding hands. I mean, this is someone who's come to your house and killed your family members, killed your children, killed your husband, sometimes chased you into the dark and you got away somehow. And they were able to forgive each other. Now, this is showing us the tremendous capacity for the human spirit. This is not just for saints, all of us have this capacity. So if they can forgive, if common people in Rwanda can forgive people who murdered family members, can you not forgive the neighbor who parks badly and gets into your parking lot? Who you've got to call every time they move your car again. I mean, come on, right? We all have. Why do we get so hung up? Right. So now, the ways to come out of this. So I was very fortunate that I got a chance to train in the monastic tradition. And our whole work is to observe the mind and observe the emotions. So what do you realize about the mind and emotions? There is spirituality of thought, there is spirituality of emotion, and there is spirituality of consciousness. Spirituality of thought is about beliefs. I talked about earlier, the person who goes to the doctor and just believes what they say, this is spirituality of thought. And this is where you start memorizing quotes from your Bible and your Gita and this and that. So it's spirituality of thought. You're quoting on Instagram, you're quoting on Facebook, but it hasn't really gone much beyond thought level. So when the actual situation happens, all that thought is gone. The next level is spirituality of emotion. So you actually feel bhav, you feel tears of gratitude, you feel an emotional connection. When you're singing that bhajan, you feel, really feel in rapture. So this is deeper. This is the spirituality of emotion. But there's something even higher than this. And this is what the mystics call samadhi. And samadhi is not just some state where you're like a stone. Samadhi it's a flow state. It's a flow state where you are one with what you're doing. And please, every single one of us, we should not die without having experienced a flow state at least once in our life. Whether it's through sport, whether it's through music, whether it's through art, whether it's through whatever you do. You need to go past the initial discomfort. You will have to go past the initial discomfort and you'll touch a state called flow. And in flow, you'll lose track of time and space. And you'll feel as though you're not doing anything. Life is doing whatever it has to do. So you become completely transparent. So if you really want emotional resilience, you have to be above the emotion. If you're caught up, if you define yourself as a body and mind, if you define yourself based on your emotions, I can give you all the tools in the world. It will not help you get emotional resilience. Emotional resilience will only come when you realize that who you are is actually untouched by the comings and goings of your life. So here's a nice phrase for you to memorize. I am the sky. Everything else is weather. I am the sky. Everything else is weather. So everything comes and goes. And there's a part of me that just is. So in your life, have you not had all these different emotions? Have you not had all these different life circumstances? Have they not come and gone, come and gone, come and gone continuously? And yet here you are. So the more you realize, whether it's through meditation or contemplation or whatever, you realize that a part of you remains forever untouched. The sky, no matter how many storm systems have moved through over the centuries, the sky does not have a single scar. The day you get that, that's when you understood the secret of emotional resilience. That nun, despite 30 years of torment, did not have ill will in her heart. That can only come when you've touched something beyond thought and emotion. The purpose of your emotions, I'm going to say it like this: life is not happening to you, life is happening for you. So all this tumultuous emotion is happening why? It's happening for a permanent upgrade to happen in your consciousness. A permanent upgrade where you don't identify yourself with your emotions. You're able to stand back and know the emotion as an emotion. Right now it's unpleasant, right now it's pleasant, right now it's neutral. And throughout the day, it keeps oscillating like this. And there is this unpleasant emotion, there is this pleasant emotion, but I'm not this emotion. It's energy in motion. Let me give you a small exercise right now to show you how the body knows how to discharge. Body knows how to discharge, just like that gazelle. Your body knows how to discharge. You've come inbuilt with this process. You don't have to wait for a talk by Nithya Shanti to know this. You know this. So let's just remind you of this. So sitting comfortably. Imagine a soda bottle being uncapped. Fizzy bottle, could be a champagne bottle, could be a Coke bottle. You're uncapping it. And what happens immediately? We all know what happens. Bubbles start emerging. Constantly bubbles start fizzing, emerging, bubbling, 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 bubbling. So now I want you to imagine your body is this soda bottle. And I'm going ahead and I'm uncapping. From the top of your head, I'm uncapping. Eyes can be open or closed. And let the fizzing begin. So from deep inside your system, bubbles are arising. Not one or two, thousands of bubbles are arising. Millions of bubbles are arising. And a fizzing process has begun. And from deep inside your system, trapped emotion is arising and passing away. Trapped trauma is arising and passing away. You don't have to make it happen. It's happening by itself. Emotional discharge is happening by itself. Deep inside your cells, cellular memory, any kind of tightness, any kind of stiffness, arising and passing away. Strange pains might arise in the body, that's fine. Or maybe not, that's also fine. You might sense discomfort in places you didn't expect to. I'm sensing something in my shoulder. This came up right now. Interesting. See what comes up for you. Could be in your hands, could be in your belly, could be anywhere, could be in the back of your neck. And all you're doing is you're allowing the body to do what it knows how to do. Discharge. Release. And just like in a soda bottle or a Coke bottle, I put a pinch of salt. It accelerates the whole process. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pinch of salt on you. And the whole process just got accelerated. Even more bubbles coming up. Even more release happening. From the deepest parts of your being, a somatic release, because the emotion that held the body, a somatic release is happening. Relax and flow. Where do you want to go? You're talking directly to the trapped emotion inside of you. Relax and flow. Where do you want to go? Maybe it wants to go up. Maybe it wants to go front, back, sideways, left, right. Maybe it wants to circulate a bit before leaving. And this is what it means when we say that the Buddhists meditate, the Buddhists sit still to experience the dance. This dance is always going on. And the Sufis, they dance to experience a stillness. So dance to discover stillness, or be still to discover the dance. In the stillness, perceive movement. In the movement, perceive stillness. I am the sky. All of this is weather. Let's all take a slow, deep breath. Wonderful. And slowly open your eyes. So I'm very fortunate that I have been exposed to teachings and practices that have enabled me to be more resilient. Right. I've also faced all kinds of setbacks in life, disappointments, done embarrassing things, relationships have ended, all kinds of things have happened, just like with anybody else. But there is more resilience. Resilience means I can bounce back faster. Doesn't mean I don't experience unpleasant emotion. Of course I do. But I don't define myself by it anymore. Right? It's something that moves through me. It doesn't become me. So today's talk is short, but I want to give you a few resources which you can explore on your own. The first resource is one of my favorite practices. It's called tapping, or EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, or tapping. Just go online, search for tapping on YouTube, search for EFT. EFT might also show up electronic funds transfer. You're looking for emotional freedom techniques. And it involves tapping some acupressure points as you tune into whatever emotion you have. And it's fascinating. I've done this for years. And I have helped myself and countless people recover from all kinds of phobias, all kinds of addictions, all kinds of stuck patterns, including being molested as a child. You'll be surprised how many of us have been molested as children. It's a very high number. And then that defines us at many levels if you're not careful, right? So we have all kinds of traumas. So EFT is one fantastic tool. I'd love for you to explore it on your own. I've taught myself these tools, so I think you're also capable of teaching it to you, teaching yourself. Just be a little committed, you can learn it, and then practice, practice, practice. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first. Make mistakes, learn from them, keep going, right? My philosophy of life is I'm here to learn, I'm here to practice, and I'm here to share. So I learn a lot. Out of the many things I learn, there are few I'm inspired to practice. Out of the many things I practice, there are few I'm inspired to share. So what you're getting here is the juice of years and years of practice. The second teaching I want to offer you is a teaching from Hawaii called Ho'oponopono. H-O, let me type it out for you. It's a little tricky one. Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian teaching which says take 100% responsibility. Ho'oponopono, that's right. Take 100% responsibility for your experience, not in a way to make yourself feel bad. It's not that you're guilty for what happened, but you're responsible. You're able to respond. You're not a victim of what's happening. Whatever happens in your life, you're not a victim of it. Right? And so in Ho'oponopono, no matter what happens, we inwardly say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And who are we saying this to? We're not saying it to anybody else. We're saying it to whatever is arising within us, the sanskaras that are arising within us, the thought patterns, the conditioning that's arising within us. And instead of reacting to it the way we normally do, we actually meet it with awareness, with consciousness, and say, I've been believing you for so long. I've been reacting to you for so long. But now I will just welcome you. Come on in. There's a lovely poem you should all look up. It's called The Guest House by Rumi. It's a beautiful poem. And it says, this being human is a guest house. Every day a new arrival. Some meanness, some joy, some gladness comes knocking. Welcome them all. Meet them at the door laughing. And even if they clear out all your home of its furniture, be grateful. They may be cleaning you out for some new delights. That poem is a nice summary of everything you need to know about emotional resilience. The Guest House by Rumi. Another fantastic tool is the work of Byron Katie. Byron Katie, like I said, she got out of years of depression. And she had an awakening, actually. And she realized that all her suffering came from believing her thoughts. So she put all her thoughts through a 4-level test. She would test her thoughts with these 4 questions. Is it true? What I'm thinking right now, is it true? Second question is interesting. Am I sure it's true? Because sometimes you very quickly say, of course it's true. Am I absolutely sure it's true? Third question, what happens when I believe this thought? And fourth question, who am I without this thought? So beautiful. And she said it took her a year after her initial awakening with that cockroach on her foot. It took her a year to stabilize that realization. It took her 1 full year. And in that 1 full year, she said all the stress of humanity came through her. You think you're separate? No, you're not. Your deepest shame, if you were to open up in this group and talk about your deepest shame, you'll be surprised many of us will raise our hands and say, I've been there. Your deepest secret, you raise your hand, you tell it, you'll realize many of us also have it. So Rumi says, if you were to sit in a circle on a campfire and talk about our deepest shame and our deepest secrets, we would laugh at how non-creative we are and how unoriginal we are. Same stuff, regurgitating. So Byron Katie says there's no new stress. It's all age-old stuff. And so she had to go through all the stress of humanity in that 1 year by questioning all her thinking. So Byron Katie is one of my favorite teachers, and the work of Byron Katie is one of my favorites. And then not too long back, a few years back, I learned a tool. The third tool is called the work of Byron Katie. I learned another tool called Jinshin Jitsu. Jinshin. In fact, on the 18th, I've invited my friend Alexis, who's a world-class teacher of Jinshin Jitsu, to share this teaching. If you want to join, I'm sure the ERA Yoga group will also send you. Otherwise, you can just look up my website, belucid.in, and you'll find details there. So Alexis will be sharing Jinshin Jitsu, or you can get her book. It's called The Art of Jinshin by Alexis Brink. Very, very effective, very, very powerful tool. The Art of Jinshin by Alexis. My website is belucid.in. Good. So that's some of the thing I wanted to share with you. You have the capacity to discharge anything. I have worked with people who have lost loved ones. I have worked with people who have been sexually molested. I've actually worked with a murderer once. I've worked with people who have fear of public speaking. I've worked with people who have fear of heights. I've worked with people who have addictions. And I have been able to support them. And of course, I've been able to support myself. Doesn't mean I'm totally clear. I still have my own hangups, but I have the confidence that I can help people to find more balance in their life. And so everything I share here, I share with a lot of love and a lot of confidence. And the gift it's given me is a gift of not being afraid of life anymore. Doesn't mean I'm never going to face setbacks. I will face setbacks in my life. I will be disappointed in my life, but I'm resilient. I know I can bounce back from them. A great documentary for you to watch would be The Lady in Number 6. It won the Oscar. It's about a lady called Alice Sommers. Alice Sommers was the oldest surviving oldest Holocaust survivor and world-class pianist. And when you see that documentary, you will get the essence of emotional resilience. How this woman went through concentration camps, being cheerful. You might have seen the movie Life is Beautiful. Like, yeah, life is beautiful. He's cheerful throughout the concentration camp experience. That's a movie, that's fiction. In Alice Sommers' case, she was actually cheerful while she was in the concentration camps. And she taught her child to be cheerful. Now, that's the kind of role model we want to have. Not the people on television who react to everything, who can't even handle one person saying something against them. Very bad role models. Get yourself good role models. The documentary is called The Lady in Number 6. It's available on Vimeo. Go to Vimeo, type Lady in Number 6. For a few dollars, you can watch it. Good. Let's take some questions. Pooja, go ahead.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for all those insights that you've shared with us. They were beautiful. And absolutely loved what you said about samadhi, about being in a constant state of learning. And I think once we set ourselves up like that, being in a constant state of learning, a lot of things start to become easier to navigate through. So that's beautiful. And if you have any questions to all the participants here, please do type out your questions so that Nithya can answer them for you. And just something very, very interesting. When I heard you talking about Rwanda, my eyes just became so much bigger because I'm from Burundi. I'm born and raised in Burundi. So Burundi, Rwanda was one country. So I actually could relate so much to that. We were there in 1994. My parents are in fact still there. So that's really, really something beautiful you spoke about. How do you let go of the emotional burden from your heart once it's there?
Yeah. So a few lines worth remembering. Your feelings don't want to be fixed. They want to be felt. How often have you felt the burden then gone into a story? Oh, that happened. Oh, they should have, or I should have, or this could have and would have. And instead of just feeling it, you make a story around it. And you don't allow the feeling to be felt. Your feelings don't want to be fixed. They want to be felt, number one. Another way of saying this, your feelings don't want to be healed. They want to be held. I used to be married. And one thing I learned in my married life was when my partner is upset, instead of talking and talking, sometimes just giving her a hug was the way to get out of it. So why was I spending the last hour talking? All I needed to do was give her a hug. Your feelings don't want to be healed. They want to be held. How beautiful is that? So can you just allow that pain in the heart to be there for a bit and just feel it? Fully feeling your feelings is healing. And so today we learned a very powerful teaching of the soda bottle. That was just a way to give you a sense of it, but ultimately it happens by itself. You uncap the soda bottle. You just sit there, you uncap your heart and say, all right, can I let this go? Would I let this go? Could I, would I, when? This is a teaching called the Sedona method. Can I let this go? Will I let this go? And when? Could I, would I, when? And you tell yourself, I shall keep the lesson, I shall release the pain. This is important. Sometimes you feel I can't release the pain or I'll make the same mistake again. It's not true. I'll keep the lesson, release the pain. I'll keep the lesson, release the pain. That's how we grow. Keep the lesson, release the pain.
Right.
And then use the tools I've talked about today. I've talked about EFT. I've talked about Ho'oponopono. I've talked about Jinshin Jitsu. I've talked about the work of Byron Katie. Use any one of them and it'll support you. Yeah, go ahead, Pooja. Next one.
That's beautiful. Thank you. We just have time for one more question. And just for whoever's here still. Just for your information, the next session is with Ira Trivedi herself, and the session link is going to be the same one as this one. So the meeting ID is going to be the same, just for your information. Desire is like a seed and more desires, new birth. So how to control our desires is by Kritika. How do you control your desires?
Control implies controller, and there is someone here who's sitting and controlling things, which itself is worth investigating. So instead of trying to control it, how about you become familiar with it, understand the movement of your desires. The moment you make it into a bad thing, it's gonna go subterranean. It will still be there. It'll now operate in a cunning way. Like most of the sexual crimes happen by celibate priests. The people who are most against gays turn out to be gays themselves. So it'll go subterranean on you. So don't do that. Don't make it subterranean. Watch the movement of it. And desire by itself is just an energy in us. It's like a frying pan. You can hold the frying pan the wrong way, badly burn yourself. You can hold the frying pan the right way and make delicious food for the family. So have a healthy relationship with your desires, right? In the beginning, the desires are in opposition to. Other person should change. Other person should change their behavior. I want that person to change. I want the government to change. It's in opposition to, you become a victim. Second kind of desire is, I want to achieve, I want to become, I want to have. All right, so you start focusing on yourself. So first is tamasic, second is rajasic. I want to attain. Second kind of desire, ambitious, putting it to the future somewhere. Third kind of desire, sattvic, where we said, I don't do things for happiness, I do things from happiness. I don't do things for joy, I do things from joy. Today's session, I could have done it two ways. One is, I hope the session goes well, and you all give me good comments. And I keep on hoping till the very end. And I'm always somewhat nervous. And the second is, whatever state I want you to be in, I practice being in that state myself. And then the state is speaking. You see, it's not Nithya Shanti who's speaking. That state of being is speaking. We teach through resonance. And ultimately, we even step beyond that. In your true nature, there's actually no emotion. When you're really in presence, there is actually no emotion. The whole purpose of emotion was to get you to presence. The whole purpose of emotion was pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And you pay enough attention, it all dissolves. And you lose boundaries. Sima Bhedan, the boundaries disappear. The in and out disappears. Me and you disappears. High and low disappears. And so, yeah, that's the way. So make friends with your desires, become familiar with your desires, understand the operation of your desires, get curious about your desires, meet them with a state of wonder. And someone's asking, my friend Rajiv was asking for affirmation. Whenever Rajiv and I meet, he says, give me an affirmation. So my affirmation, which I want to share with all of you. Every day, look in the mirror and take your own name. I'll take mine. I want you to take yours. Just repeat after me if you can. And look in the mirror and say, Dear Nithya, and you take your name. Dear Nithya, just for today, what if there's nothing wrong with you? Dear Nithya, just for today, what if there's nothing wrong with you? Can you all say it one more time? Say your own name. Dear, whatever your name is. Dear Nithya, just for today, look into your own eyes and say, what if there's nothing wrong with you? That's a fantastic affirmation. One of the best affirmations I can give you. And it changes everything because we have such a deep assumption that something's wrong with me. And if I attend enough of these sessions and come for enough yoga-thons and enough yoga sessions and pranayamas and this and that, and then one day something will happen. Nothing's going to happen. Everything has a crack in it. We're all crackpots. Everything has a crack in it. That's what lets the light in. And can you embrace your cracks? Have you seen that Japanese art? I forget the name of it. Where when something breaks, they heal it. They mend it with gold. It's beautiful. You look it up online. Broken crockery from Japan. Does someone know the name of it? So yeah, so it's not wabi sabi. It's something else. But basically, when some that's right. It's kintsugi, something like that. Yes, that's right. So powerful, right? So the cracks in you, as you embrace them and love them, they become gold-like. And I'm going to end with this last thing. My friend says this. He says, while it is their divinity that attracts them, it is your humanity that makes it accessible. How beautiful is that? While it is your divinity that attracts them, it is your humanity that makes it accessible. There's something in you that's really shiny and bright. And that's what attracts your friend, and that's what attracts everybody. That's what inspires people. But then your humanity, when you show them that also you can be clumsy sometimes and you can be forgetful sometimes, and you also have hang-ups, they're like, then maybe I can also be like you. Otherwise, you're too shiny. I can't. You're like the sun. You're inaccessible. But when I see that you can also have humanity, you can also mess up, you can also have your own shadows, then I feel, maybe there's hope for me as well. What a lovely quote. In other words, everything is perfect and everything can be improved. I'm perfect, I'm improving. You're perfect, you're improving. Life is perfect, and life is improving. And what a great way to go through life. Purnamada Purnamadam. This is whole and complete. That is whole and complete. Thank you, Pooja. Back to you.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. Every word you say, and that's what makes your teaching so powerful. I feel that it's very practical. It's things that you can put into practice, just try it out. And I love what you said about that moment of silence. Sometimes that's all you need. Take a moment of silence, and so many answers will come to your mind, or just some clarity. So that's beautiful. Thank you very, very much once again, Nithya, for taking time out and being with us here. I'm sure everyone has taken a lot from this session.